I worked on different modules, supply chain and production project module, apart from HR and payroll, and currently working with the pharmaceutical businesses. So that is quite impressive and a different kind of knowledge set, and currently leading the team as well. So that is also a great opportunity, and it's a great working with Quantum Omega, where we have a different view, and we can have a different view from the youngsters, learning from them, and it's a challenge task. Yeah, definitely, it's quite amazing.
Great, great. All right. So before we start with asking Permin all the questions, I'd just like to tell all of the viewers who are watching the webinar that if they have any questions for Permin, they can simply add in the questions in the QA box that's presented near the chat box. And at the end of the webinar, Permin will be happy to answer all of the questions. All right, Permin, let's start with the most asked question. That is, what key role do you think ERP really plays in the pharmaceutical industry?
Well, I think an ERP system is the heart of each company. It is where all the ends come together. It starts from the purchasing, goes to the delivery with the financial. So it is the heart of all companies. I think the ERP, it's for me, it's the platinum class of work, being capable to work with ERP systems. In the pharmaceutical industry, I think there, over the last years, the importance having validated processes which comply to the regulatory authorities and requirements moving into the ERP has shifted more and more over, as hybrid work with paperwork and half electronic is no longer accepted. More and more processes move to electronic systems, and there, as soon as you go with material compliance, traceability, you have to go to the ERP system, because that is the true source and the one and the only source. So it's becoming more and more crucial also in the regulated part of the companies.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any insight as well to add, Rahul? Anything about Permin? Oh, Amit, you're mute. One sec. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely what Parvin has said. So it is not only a core area of the or requirement of the MRP, but it also extend now to the finance department. We have many processes which needs to be automated, and during the COVID period, we all see like we require that kind of a sophisticated system or comprehensive system which does not work in isolation, but talks, of course, with all the business processes, and uh, having a right KPIs or the business KPIs to measure. So I think we require to capture the data on low level or very minute level that gives our CFO or CEO or directors to measure their business performance on time. Yeah. So definitely, it's a must.
Yeah. Like Permin even said that, in pharmaceutical companies, meeting regulatory compliance is really big. It's a huge requirement, So Permin, how do you think Dynamics 365 F&O can really help in this regard?
Well, as you said, the regulator compliance, and this is really the something we as a pharma companies are hanging our lives on, because they can shut down your company if you're not compliant. It's not sorry, if you sell bad Coca-Cola, nobody will buy it again. They allow us to shut down the company and you're no longer able to deliver. So compliance, it's all about compliance, product safety, patient safety, quality, and therefore the platform and the support of the platform must be in a controlled manner, in a validated manner. And having that on premise on your own is highly complicated. If you install it on a hyperscaler and manage on you still have the difficulties to manage different platforms to go to one product. And if you go to the Microsoft, where the whole product platform is owned by Microsoft, from the server infrastructure, operating system, database system, plus then your application layer, all that out of one hand with one consolidated manner, complying with what they can do on their part with the regulatory requirement, gives you, at least from the platform basis, already a stability and advantage over hosting it on your own and going through at that pace. So that is very, very important. On the other hand, D365 brings already a lot of stuff which are required for pharma compliance, from the technical parts, electronic signatures, database log, but also from the material tracing part, compliance part, vendor qualification. There's already a lot of things out of the box. If there's somebody from Microsoft, there's still some parts missing, but they're already out of box. A lot of tools which you require to be compliant. So it reduces the development and the integration of additional tools. So I think that is really good from Microsoft, having one platform basis, starting from the hardware over operating system, database, and the application. I think that gives a competitive advantage over having a separate intermediates doing an installation.
Yeah, absolutely. Pirmin, pharmaceutical companies, they're very different, from other companies. They have operations that are so different, such as weighing and dispensing, drug distribution, managing stock that adheres to quality control procedures. Do you think, Pirmin, one ERP system can really do all of this, or do we still need another supporting system?
Well, one thing, the thing is, pharmaceutical companies are not so different than other companies, because at the end, somebody wants something and you produce something. It's just the compliance part which makes it complicated. So that's the one thing. But as you said, they're so different, pharmaceutical companies. We, for instance, CARBOGEN AMCIS, we are customer API manufacturer. We don't make the pills, we don't make the injections, we don't make the blisters. There are other companies who make the pills, make the injections, make the blisters. So there's very, very, very different requirements, also from the scale of the company. And saying that one ERP can fit everything, I think that is not possible. You will always have to have your machine park and your subsystems, which you can manage part of your problems. Like I think later on we'll come to LIMS system, laboratory information management systems. Depends what you understand on there. If you only a small part, you may integrate it. If you're a huge laboratory equipment, it is better to have a subsystem which has all the tools together, and then over defined interface integrated with an ERP system. I always tell to my students that an ERP system is something like a big container ship where the captain has taken 2 packages of Valium. Changing the direction of an ERP system is a work. You can do it, but better you use the huge capacity an ERP system has in a good manner and find ways to build additional subsystem, stable subsystems, best of breed, where the individual part of it you can easily validate, rather than having all in a big ERP system, which we all know the complexity of an ERP system is already massive.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that as well, Rahul, Amit?
Yeah, so as said by the Pirmin, it also applies to the finance, because nowadays every CFO, they wants to track from where they are earning the dollar and from where they are spending the dollar. So they need an end-to-end analysis of their money, because money is never like a cheap resource. And then, of course, they want to follow the KPIs, that how efficient they are in their business processes. So, of course, an integrated ERP definitely require much needed to track those 5 M's of the business, in which finance and processes are, but also like plays an equal role, I would say. So with this, and of course, like finance is also like a regulatory environment. You have to comply the local law if you want to, like, of course, run your business in those countries. And the one of the biggest benefit which I see from the Microsoft, that it comes out of the box localization for many countries, many is like maybe 30 countries or more than 30 countries, and more complex one, like they also have for the India also. So the most complex taxation structure of India, they also comply. So I think that's a good feature of the Microsoft ERP trainers. That is it.
Yeah. Before we jump to the next question, I'd just like to get back to the audience and tell them that if they have any questions for Pirmin, they can add it in the chat box. And at the end of the webinar, Pirmin will be happy to answer any of those questions. I saw there was a question, so keep those questions coming. At the end of the webinar, we will definitely pass those questions on to Pirmin. All right. So, Pirmin, you mentioned about LIMS, and all pharmaceutical companies, they definitely incorporate the LIMS functionality. In fact, what we've been seeing is that, a lot of companies have been slowly incorporating the LIMS functionality into the ERP system itself. So how can companies integrate LIMS and ERP together successfully to reap the benefits of laboratory automation?
Well, where it comes exactly, you said successful laboratory automation. And I believe really there are products on the market which do that great. And we have to build an interface with the ERP system to support this rather than including that in an ERP system. At the end, it all depends. If you are in, let's say you make pills against headaches, instead your only product, you have stable processes, a defined machinery park, why not building the LIMS system in your ERP? If you have a high dynamic production like we have with a multiple customer project, multiple products, a lot of different analytical types, programming that to an ERP system will go to a point where you start developing a LIMS system, attaching it to an ERP system, which makes no sense. They are best of breed system. That's what we did. We purchased with the D365 opportunity a separate LIMS system from a major vendor, from Thermo Fisher, by the way. So that's what I said. To do exactly this, because they have all the instruments and machinery integration for the lab equipment already built in. So from a validation and compliance level, it's much easier to manage this than programming it from scratch and integrating them in an ERP system. On the other hand, there are add-ons for D365. There's one who has weighing, dispensing, and a lot of that stuff already on the market in a stable manner that can maybe be sufficient for your requirements. So that's not the real for against, but the more complex your environment is, the better from my point of view is if you have a stable subsystem that can enter your laboratory, do it and make a defined interface, because that interface is then also with the upgrades from Microsoft easier to maintain than a huge development, which you have then made as an add-on to Microsoft, the D365. Sabahat, you're on mute. Sabahat, you're on mute.
Oh, oops. I'm just talking to myself. All right. The next question I would ask to you, Pirmin, is what is the role of advanced master planning and machine learning modules built in the D365 supply chain management? Do you think this is beneficial for pharmaceutical companies? Why or why not?
and here again, we come to the biggest problem of pharma industry. Let's say the way we are boring oldies and new technology, bringing them with our requirements for compliance is difficult. When I see where we are now with cloud compliance, already this is a huge step for regulatory requirements to have cloud system being compliant in a pharma environment. So that's already a huge step. Going then to a machine learning, where still the processes and the boundaries are somehow predictable over the learning curve. I can still imagine that a machine learning you can validate, so you can define what the results will be and do a testing that the results as the outcome is compliant. But when we then go to artificial intelligence, where I see artificial intelligence really as a self-learning human brain simulation, where you create new processes and new logic out of the existing one, I wonder how you can validate this, because there's no defined algorithm which you can define and prove that it's working. It's the machine who's creating a kind of human brain, and having that validated, that the authorities accept that you rely on the results. I don't see how the authorities will accept it, even though we are here IT persons. Most of us know that this will be work, but we always have to define and prove. So when a definition is not possible, you cannot prove it. Or when the basis changes, you cannot prove it. So artificial intelligence, I think that will be a long way to be able to be used in pharma, at least anything which is regarded to regulatory parts, so the product quality, the patient safety, or any other health or data structural safety stuff. For other parts, it can be when we are not in the quality part and the patient health, there can be huge effort and a huge advantage of using that part, being easier identifying things.
Yes. So you don't really see it benefiting the pharmaceutical industry in the long, not anytime soon.
In a short term, at least, the artificial intelligence, I think the benefits, yes, but I see if you have to compliant with artificial intelligence, I just don't see how you can do that compliance. Maybe you need to go on some hybrid working that you capture and generate results with artificial intelligence, but validate them by a human person, something like this.
Yes.
Could be a possibility, but having an automated machine generate an artificial intelligence decision which impact directly the patient's health or the product quality, I'm not sure if authorities will allow that.
Yes.
Very simple.
Yes. What do you think, Amit? Do you agree with Pirmin on this, or do you have another take? Like me, you're on mute, Amit.
Yeah, definitely. Like what Pirmin has said, I'm with him definitely.
What about you, Rahul? Do you agree with Pirmin on this?
Yeah, I agree. And even just want to add, there are certain things aspect because that is always comes with the health hazard with different patient or means a person to person, and there are authorities and government alliance or as well. So there are lot of challenges implementing AI to the to ERP and integrating with the subsystem. So that's what I agree with Permin as well. So I don't think so. It will come nearby soon. And means what are the ill effect, and means we have to see pros and cons of using AI in pharmaceutical industry. So that is equally important. So how
Yes.
we are going to address it, definitely there are a lot of research and development is required. So I think so. It will going to take a lot of time to implement AI in
Yes.
pharmaceuticals. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. All right. So we will move towards our next topic now, which is business process management using D365 F&O. So, Perman, how can you talk about business process management from your point of view? Give us an overview, completely from your perspective.
Well, I think that the business process management, or let's go the other way around, the support of business process with IT tools is crucial to success for any company nowadays. I think there we are in a point. If you don't have the right tools to support your processes, you will fail because there will always be somebody who has the right tools.
Yeah.
So the question is, where are the right tools? That is the biggest question. And I see really that the Microsoft ecosystem, the 365 ecosystem with all the potential it has is a massive part for business process management. If we only take the D365 nutshell, we already have lots of process management possible flows, easy to set up process flows in the systems where you do not need a programmer. You just can set it up nearly like in Visio with the decision trees and all that stuff. So you can easily make a process from purchase requirement to purchase order to manufacturing relatively easy within the D365 F&O. But if you then go outside and want to connect maybe a different system, an Excel sheet, a SharePoint site, or whatever, or SAP or lab system, we have the tools in the Microsoft ecosystem with Microsoft Power Automate, for instance, as an external flow tool where you have plugins and connectors to a huge number of products. So I think they're really having a Microsoft ecosystem with having a lot of best of breed tools like the CRM system from Microsoft, which is on the one hand separated from the D365, but you have the dual right opportunity to write directly there without interfacing. That's a massive, massive advantage. And in addition, you have all the Office tools which are generated by Microsoft, maintained, and all that stuff. So you have, again, a one-stop shop for all your problems. Maybe in some cases, tools are not yet the best, but you have all the tool set and possibilities there. And I think most outside world is keen on using those tools or building connectors to the tools because it is the state-of-the-art platform for any IT tools.
Yes, definitely. I don't think we can function without it.
Yeah, and when I do with my students an easy business process generation from a manual to a fully integrated, we just click through Microsoft Power Automate. It takes us 2 hours afternoon, and you see really from a before walking through the company at the end to a very comfortable with a smartphone ordering something process, and all that my students are engineers for machinery, so they're not IT guys. they understand it. You don't need programming. You don't need all these skills of developing code and having all that fancy stuff. You can do a lot of things if you understand a little bit computer logic.
Yes, yes. Anything that you would like to add to that, Amit?
Yes, what Pirmin has said is absolutely like in the right direction if we will use the Microsoft ecosystem. So it is not only a Dynamics, but if we will add those ecosystems, then it makes a much more powerful elephant, and then it can really like a warrior or defender for your all business processes. So we can make use of all those.
Yes, yeah. What about you, Rahul?
Uh, yeah, as I agree with Permin and Amit as well. So already Microsoft has built a lot of things in D365. Already we have integrated Office add-in systems. We have different tools built by Microsoft, and we have different platform as well where we can able to integrate with the third-party application using my Microsoft products. So that will be easy to configure, and there are a lot of documentation provided by Microsoft that is easy for a technical person to learn as in from the coding side coding point of view. So and it will be helpful in the performance basis, and apart from that regulatory systems that we have a security and challenges that we are that might be facing. But apart from that, every business has their own different tools or applications. So for the security perspective also, they have a different challenges developing in D365. So that can be taken care, that will be helpful because we have a cloud system, we have all our compliances provided by Microsoft. So I definitely agree these things that will be helpful in case we are using D365.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Perman, how can companies optimize their business processes using D365 F&O? Can you give us some examples?
Well, already, if you go the automation of the processes with the flows in the system, that's really a huge step. And I'm coming from the old Axapta part, having already in AX 2012 the workflows with the notification, with the internal control systems and possibility. That's already a huge advantage for the most biggest part of the classic ERP steps. And once you want to go outside, you use the connectors from Power Automate, and then you can connect with outside systems relatively easy for automated processes. So that is really, yeah, there.
Yeah.
And if you go, for instance, for the CRM part, you take Microsoft CRM with the dual write options. You don't even have to think about the interface.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Just getting back to the attendees, if you have any questions for Perman, just a small reminder, you can add it in the chat box. And we are closing very soon towards the end of the webinar, so Perman will be answering all of your questions. All right. Moving to the next question, Perman. How can D365 really internationalize your business if they have subsidiaries spread across different countries?
I think Amit already mentioned it before. Being so long in the market, Microsoft has for most of the countries a localization which is under their authority to meet the requirements of the regional authorities. So that's a big advantage. You are sure that in the countries where you use the project, you have the full support to meet the local legal requirements from Microsoft. You have the language support for those countries with a native language. I think that's also very important that we here hold that conference, that call in English. Most of us, English is not the mother tongue.
Yes.
So we cannot expect people using an ERP system in English. We must have them in the local languages. I think that's also very important. The other thing is, as Microsoft has such a huge Azure infrastructure, you can place your data center and your environments in the geographical region where you want to have it, where it's maybe from the performance the best place, and you still have the guarantee and the stability that Microsoft is hosting a perfect platform. If you have Chinese and European people, maybe hosting it on Azure Cloud in India is from the geographical part, the best part. You have both sides. So you have the lowest latency from both sides possible. Can be an option. I think that's also important to see. And on the other hand, Microsoft D365 is built for multi-company structures. So the multi-company is there in for the financial part, for the financial dimensions, for the item master, for the production planning. You have it to go over different legal entities, which can be within your one local nationality legal entities, but also international legal entities with other subsidiaries. So it is all there, and I think it's one of the perfect tools where you can have that for mid-sized companies in every region where you want to have your perfect adopted and your localized supported version by Microsoft.
I think that's the core strength, basically, the fact that it's so flexible. You know, it just
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right. So with this, we'll be ending the question that I had for Pirmin. But I can see that there are quite a few questions that are here for Pirmin, which I'd like to read out to Pirmin, and he can go ahead and answer it. So, Pirmin, are you ready?
I'm ready, yes.
All right. Okay. So Ranjana asks, is there a comprehensive risk control matrix integrated with the ERP system and monitoring control embedded in the ERP system?
Simple answer, no. And no, wish it would be there, to be honest. But here we again, it depends on your company, what you're doing, where are your risks, what are your structures. So that is really up on each company to define their structures and the problems and their risks. So no, it's not there. It's not there. You have to generate it. You have at the end to decide which risks you find acceptable to take and which ones you want to mitigate. And that is the huge part of the validation, seeing the processes we have and seeing which of the processes then may impact some of the regulatory requirements and then how to mitigate that risk. So sorry, no, that's not there.
All right.
At least not to my knowledge.
It's probably not there. Amit mentions, Pirmin, it's not a question as such, but he's just saying that pharma companies must adhere to the rules and regulations of local health authorities. So how system will integrate with different health authorities? Oh, it's a question. So how will systems integrate with different health authorities? There are always some or other teams we should not have a lot of dependency on technical team to do so.
Yeah. Well, the requirements to meet regulatory compliance are more or less for all national health authorities the same or very close. We have more or less the two big guidelines, the American ones, FDA with their one, and the Europeans with the GAMP guide, which give, I would say, the basis for something like 95% of the requirements you have to be compliant if you want to serve the European or the North American market. So that's the one thing. If you are compliant with your procedures and the validation for FDA inspection, in most cases, you're also compliant with all the other national requirements. For sure, for each market you want to deliver your products, you have to verify. You have to make a submission and filing that you can sell your products there, and they will then exactly tell you if there are differences which you have to be compliant. But in principle, if you're one of the two big areas, European or North American compliant, most other local health authorities accept it as a basis. You still have to pass a local audit for them one. But I see here, for instance, that we have the French, the German, and the Spanish. We have the European one. So if you have a European compliance, you can deliver to all of the markets. So that makes it a little bit easier. But yes, it might be different, and we have all health authorities from all countries here where we deliver products, because they have to accept us as a potential correct deliverer.
Okay, all right. So if any attendees have any questions for Pirmin, now is the chance. We will be closing the webinar in another 5 minutes. So if there are any questions, any more questions for Pirmin, please do drop in the chat. I would also like to take the time to actually thank Pirmin, Amit, and Rahul. It was a real pleasure to have you guys, and there's just so much that I learned. So thank you, Pirmin, thank you, Amit, thank you, Rahul. It was a great webinar. For the attendees, we definitely will also be having a recording of this webinar. We'll also be sending out the advanced methodology to all the registered attendees. So you all have to look for your email. We will be emailing you all very shortly. Let's just wait for 2 minutes. Let's see if there's any questions. I don't see anything. So, all right, let's close the webinar. I had a great time. I learned a lot. Thank you, Pirmin, once again.
Welcome.
Thank you, Rahul.
You're welcome, Sabahat.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And if anybody wants to know anything, I think you have passed over LinkedIn. Drop me a message there. We can always chat, exchange. I'm more than happy to share. And by the way, I don't have any Microsoft stocks nor Quantum Omega stocks. Okay.
Pirmin, if you want, you can add in your LinkedIn link over here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sure.
So Pirmin will just be adding his LinkedIn. So if you all want to connect with him, ask him questions. Jyoti already did that. Thanks, Jyoti.
Okay, good.
All right, so you can connect with Pirmin. You can ask him. He is an ERP industry leader for sure. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.